Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm tutorial series. This is how to use the Playbook Pro for NFL. I'm going to show you how to access and get the information and a process that I use in order to be able to use the different features in order to be able to get the players that are interesting to me on the weekend, and then how to go about creating lineups. So, and this will be applicable for all sports. So we have similar tools in all sports. And you'll be able to use them for any sport. So first, on navigating, what I do is I always make sure I come down to the middle of the page and see the middle of the home page and see the different items that are available for me. I like to look at the tools items from here, and I like to look at the content items from the schedule down here on the right. This gives you everything and as it comes out, what days it comes out, and kind of gives you if you go every day to our site, this is where to look. So, and the eye right here allows you to roll over it and see exactly what the feature is that you're looking at. So that's generally how I start. Generally during the week, I start with the watch list. On Saturdays, when I'm getting ready to make my lineups, the playbook comes out, and when the playbook comes out, that's the end-all be-all of the content that we make. Howard Bender, the RotoBuzz guy, puts together all this from staff input and from himself to knock out great information about what players to play on what platforms and why. We include some other information like ownership, which is extraordinarily important for you to understand how much players are going to be owned in order to win in your cash game or your tournament lineups. So, we can see that Russell Wilson is projected to be owned about 5% on each one of these sites. So an interesting guy in the playbook because he'll be possibly less owned. Matt Ryan going to be owned by a lot more people, and because of that, better for cash lineups than for your tournament lineups. So we give you the skinny. This is great information, fantastic analysis from the entire team, but mostly from the RotoBuzz guy who brings you all of this information every week in the watch list. Then Justin Mason puts together these every Wednesday, and these are every player in every game and what they did last week and what they're going to do next week. It's a perfect synopsis for how everything comes together for the weekend's matchups and allows you to see all of that early on Wednesday. I like to read all of these. It always gives me some insight to some player that I didn't realize happened. And then on each one of these, while I'm reading them, it has other information about that matchup. So it allows me to examine that matchup a little bit deeper. I have lines information right here. I know exactly what the money line and the spread is. Real time, I have the under-over right here, so I know exactly what the under-over is. And then I can get information about starters, how much players are used, exact practice reports for what happened that week for those players, inactives on Sunday morning. We can get deep projections from the players on each team, and I can compare them to each other for that, which is fantastic information to have all in this one little tight package. If I want to bring any one game to the top, I want to see Tampa Bay, Atlanta, I can click on Tampa Bay, Atlanta, brings it right up to the top so I can see that matchup individually. Great, fantastic feature that we have. Then I like to take a look at the Vegas lines, but rather than look at our Vegas lines page, which you can look at it to see what the starting lines were and the ending lines, to where the money's going, to see whether or not a spread is going in a certain direction or an under-over is going higher or lower. Those are usually indicators as to whether or not a certain game is going to be on fire. But I like to look at this page because it tells me information about the users, about the defenses, so that I can get an understanding of which games are more in play. Right now you can see this Falcons-Tampa Bay game and this Chiefs-Patriots game are the two highest on the board by a lot, and you can see the numbers are dramatically higher than others for running back versus running back and versus wide receiver for all of these teams. So a great amount of information there. The wide receiver cornerback report allows me to see exactly which wide receivers are going to be against which cornerbacks, so I can target which ones we want. Marcus Peters now back for the Rams this week, covering Courtland Sutton. Maybe he's not as interesting as he was if Peters was still out. So this is some information that you can put together when you're looking at what players to be using in your lineups. Then we have a series of coaches: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defense. And all of those can be used in the same manner that we use all things on the site, which is a games ribbon to select only certain games, slates in order to select only certain slates, so you can get only the games that are within those slates. And then this search box, the native search box, the most powerful thing on the site, allows you to just bring up the players you want. I want to look at Russell Wilson, so it brings up only Russell Wilson. I want to look at only the Seattle Seahawks, brings up only the Seattle Seahawks and the people they're playing against. It's a native search, so you can type in just about anything I want to type in. Anybody who has a 22 in there, and you get a 22. So you can use that box creatively and search any of our reports in any of our tools. So the quarterback coaches are a combination of text and the data box I was just showing you. And the text is from our analysts about who are the top price, mid-tier, and value plays at each position. A fantastic way for you to get more insights on who might be amongst the players that you pick. Then I love to look at the projections, because the projections give me information on how I can value players. So for instance, by selecting this value meter at wide receiver on DraftKings, I can then see that DeAndre Hopkins is the most valuable on DraftKings. Where if I'm on FanDuel, it's probably Antonio Brown. So, and then, right, Antonio Brown, the most valuable there from a value standpoint. So you can see that in every scoring system. You can see that in any seasonal scoring systems, and all there really easy for you to get to in the scoring system ribbons. These are our projections page. Then, of course, we have a lineup generator, which I'm not going to go over now because there's a separate video for that. It's a fantastic tool for you to get information and find players. I like to just select a particular scoring system like DraftKings and select a player or two that I like, and then generate 15 lineups, and then see how those lineups, see what players in those lineups are interesting. Why is Deshaun Jackson in that matchup? Why did our system take the 33 metrics and what it takes to put in place and figure out that the lineup generator should deliver us Deshaun Jackson? Then I like to look at the news, and then importantly on Sunday mornings, after I have all that information together, this information is updated on Sunday mornings about 11 a.m. Eastern. And this is very, very important information. What it allows you to do is to see who is projected to be the most owned on sites. You can see Julio Jones is projected as the most owned on both FanDuel and DraftKings. And then you can see information about that player in a tighter format so that you can see exactly what happens. And this same report, they also upload their actuals. So, if you want to see week 2 and you want to see the actual percentage of players, you can see how close they are, and they're incredibly close on their on the projections on this ownership page. It's very, very important. You should play the highest owned players in your cash games, and you should try to find diamonds in the rough, players below 5% that you think are interesting, that are on your list, and play those within your, there's Russell Wilson, for example, at 4.9 and 5.5 in your tournament games. Okay, so that's all. That's how you use the Playbook Pro. Those are some of the features. There are 30 features and 30 tools. There's no way I could show that all to you today, but those are some of the features that I find to be incredibly valuable and to allow me to get the information that I need in order to make my lineups, and we want to share that with you today. Please let us know what others that you like. And again, you can reach me at rick@fantasyalarm.com. And this has been the Fantasy Alarm tutorial for how to use the DFS, to use the Playbook Pro for your NFL lineups.